Well, I would like to say a few words today at the beginning of the seminar. It would be somehow nice if we could have a friendly dialogue, in the sense that when we go into the questions, we have a certain hesitation rather than asserting things. And somehow all of us together could go into whatever the questions we are going to discuss. And yesterday we were saying, we opened up the seminar by saying that whether thought can help us to understand the brain. And also we went into the question of psychological, whether it's possible for the brain to not have psychological recording. And finally we opened up very briefly the question of insight. And I think there's where we stop. So I wonder what the question would you like to start with. It seems to me that it doesn't seem too clear the question of whether the brain can be in a state of not recording. I think perhaps that might need a little bit of clarification. What do you think?
So I would like to ask whether we are discussing speculatively, theoretically, or actually. Actually, in the sense, applying. Applying in the sense, functioning not theoretically but with facts. Right? Could we do that? What I ask you?
Yes.
Am I proposing something outrageous?
No.
Because to me, theories, speculations, whether psychological, spiritual, have no meaning to me. What has significance to the speaker, to K, is dealing with facts. Facts being that which has happened, that which is happening. Mm-hmm. Not what will happen.
So is the brain a fact? Is the brain a fact now?
Of course.
How so?
Because it's functioning. Functioning in the sense that it wants to communicate something verbally, and also perhaps also non-verbally.
All right, communication is fact.
Is a fact.
But when you call it the brain, that's an inference, theoretical inference.
Beg pardon?
But when you describe that as the brain doing something or other,
yes,
that is a theoretical inference.
That's a fact.
No, because there is a gap.
There
is an inference between the fact of communication now and when you use the word the brain, because the brain is associated to communication through a long series of observations which are not now.
Of course. Which is now taking place. Long observation has been, I said that. Fact is what has been, what is now. What has happened, what is happening now. Right?
May I ask, do you mean that insight has really something to do with brain, or would it be apart from brain?
Are we discussing insight, or are we establishing first whether we are theoretically discussing or discussing?
But
I have pain. Suppose I have pain.
Mm-hmm.
that's the fact.
That's a fact. Okay, now, the question is, how are we going to address such a fact?
How am I going to, no, how am I going to be free of my pain. That's
No.
all I'm concerned with.
No. First you've made a jump though. First you have your pain, that's your fact.
Wait, sir.
Yes.
The fact is I'm in pain,
Period.
full stop. And also the fact that there must be freedom from pain.
What do you mean there must be?
And that's human nature, sir. What are you saying there must?
Well, I mean, what Kay might say, you see, that when you are in pain, you see, you somehow want to get rid of
That's
pain.
all a fact.
Yes.
But the thing I'm trying to say is that the fact is the pain. The next fact is
He's also wanting to get rid of it.
that's two facts.
No, those are both facts.
Right. Okay. All right. That's as far. Those are the facts.
But wait a minute. Are we discussing about pain, not having pain, which becomes a theory?
Fine. No, I would like to discuss pain as a fact.
Yes.
But now I want to go back to the fact that you use the word brain
Yes.
as related to pain.
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't. If the brain didn't function, I wouldn't know what
But
pain
sir,
is.
isn't that an inference? How is that happening now? The fact that you use the word brain is because there have been people in the past who
I don't
made
quite
a
understand.
relationship.
I'd like to get at this. I
Okay.
don't quite understand.
When I
I'm not
say
disputing.
no, maybe I'm not understanding you correctly, but when you say I experience pain, it is clear to all of us that this is now, right? Now I come around and say pain has to do with brain.
Of course.
Now, but the relationship to juxtapose these two words, brain and pain, has a long series of intermediate steps which required work from the past of people who actually pointed out the existence of such a thing as brain, which is not something we're doing now. We are not opening up a skull and saying this is brain and cutting the brain in parts and doing all the kinds of
Don't do it
things.
with me.
I won't.
Don't break up my brain.
So you see what I'm saying? That the moment I invoke the word brain, I'm bringing with it a huge edifice of inferences and
Yes, sir.
relationships
Which is
which
all
are
the
not
past.
now,
Which
which
is
are in
all
the
the
past.
past.
Yes.
Past.
Okay. So how is the fact that you use the word brain now consistent with your desire to deal only with present facts? Could you clarify that?
I don't quite follow it. I'm trying to understand.
Could one ask?
I'm not.
Yes. Can I say it? Can I say it in some other way?
Just a minute. I'm not. Please understand between us.
Absolutely.
I'm not resisting anything.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'm inquiring.
May I phrase it some other way? You are trying correctly, as far as I'm concerned, to establish the ground of what are we dealing with.
Yes.
And you say, can we deal with facts
And
as
not
they are
theories.
now and not theories
Yes.
about things?
Yes.
Fine. So the next moment you say brain, which I am claiming cannot be said unless we invoke theories.
I agree.
Okay, so how are these two things then consistent?
The brain is the result of long evolution, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's also a theory.
No, it's a fact.
Can we say that from what we're experiencing now?
That's a fact.
Then the brain
Could
is
I
a fact.
perhaps ask, if I have a pain in my hand, that there's a pain, but to talk about the brain is to talk about something that I've read about in a textbook, that up here there are lots of nerve cells and...
Yes, if I had no brain, I wouldn't feel.
But what we're saying is there...
nerves and all the rest of it.
Yeah, but that you don't know from the observations you're having now.
We don't experience
I
our
don't
brains.
understand your-
We don't
Perhaps,
we don't experience the fact of anything being in here. I don't experience
The
there's
nerves.
something in here that I don't experience the nerves, the connections.
Perhaps may I
Krishnamurti,
say
the-
something? Perhaps we are trying to...
Tell me simply, sir.
Yes, simply.
I'm a stupid man, so tell me simply.
Perhaps what we are trying to say that there is facts that are actually taking place now and some facts that are in the future. You see, if you take, for example...
Not future, I said
Yes.
past.
or in
In
the
the
past?
past.
I said the past, with all the memories, etc., are also facts.
Well, that's a jump.
Huh?
What we're saying is that really all you have is the fact of your pain, then you have the fact that you want to be free of the pain.
That's all.
But when you make the statement, the brain is responsible for the experience of pain,
Yeah.
you have entered a whole new world of language, whereby when using the word brain, it connects you to assumptions that people have made about what a brain is, what a brain does,
I don't know
what
anything
theories.
about- I know nothing about
Well, then you can't use the word brain. All you've got is fact, is pain, and that's all you've got.
All right.
So now when
And all
he says
picture,
what-
all right, all that I have pain,
You've got pain.
and also the fact I must be free of pain.
That's all you have.
That's all I have. All right, proceed from there.
No. The point is that you have been, I mean, and I really appreciate it, honestly, that to have these conversations, and we are all biologists or scientists, right? So supposedly the inquiry has something to do with what science can contribute to it. Maybe not, but maybe yes.
Yes.
It's open.
Yes.
If there is something that science has to contribute, then it must address to what science can say.
Yes,
Things
sir.
like
What-
brain or atoms or
No.
whatever.
Yes, I understand.
So if you rip that apart and you say all we have is the moment of
No,
experience
I don't leave
now.
all that apart, naturally.
Okay. So we have to invoke brain,
course,
therefore
of
we
course.
have to jump out of the immediate experience
Yes,
of
sir,
now.
I agree, I agree.
Fine. Okay.
Is that so that in order to be free from pain, we need nowadays to do something with the brain, give medicine
Yes,
or...
I go to the doctor, he gives me a
Yes.
pill, and I take it, pain is gone.
Yes, and it influences the brain. Is that a fact? This process of getting free from pain with getting pills or something. Is that a fact or is that a theory or how would you say?
Could we say that whatever goes inside the brain is a fact, whether it's an illusion, whether it's a pain
Yes.
or so on? But perhaps the difference is given by it's whether it's actually taking place in this moment or not,
Yeah,
right?
it's the same
Is that
question.
it? Is that it?
Perhaps, I don't know.
Could we ask if you have the pain, which is the fact, and the
Yes.
fact of wanting to be rid of the pain,
Yes.
then
Yeah.
does knowledge and science
Yes.
have anything to do with any next step?
No.
Does knowledge and science come in
Yes.
the next step?
In other words, what is the relationship
What is the
between
relation
the
to
actuality
fact and the
And knowledge.
and
Yes,
knowledge?
and knowledge.
Yes.
I keep it to that.
Fine.
Yes,
That's all.
yes, knowledge.
What is the relationship between what is happening now,
Yes.
pain, and knowledge,
Yes.
Yes. Such as brain, etc.
etc.? What do you mean by knowledge?
Okay.
Yeah, let's
You go slowly. I'm not a scientist.
I'm only an apprentice.
I'm a human being. I'm not a scientist. What do you mean by knowledge? What is knowledge?
Okay.
Knowledge is accumulation of various experiences, incidents, and those experiences can be enormous or very small. And all that those experiences have become knowledge, right?
Yes.
Knowledge stored in the brain as memory. That's all. And from that thought,
Yes. Absolutely.
right?
I would add one more thing, which
Add
is that
anything you
the
like.
scientific knowledge is accumulated by language agreement between people
And
who say,
also-
this is a fact, do we agree? Yes, we agree, so we put it
Yeah.
aside and move to the next. So it
So-
becomes this network of assumptions and presuppositions,
It's all
etc.
that. I
Yes.
said that.
Fine.
Knowledge is all that. Now, what place has knowledge, right? what is the relationship of knowledge to pain?
Right.
Right? It's not a question, it is a fact. If there was no knowledge, I wouldn't have no pain.
What?
If there was no...
Knowledge, I would have no
Can
pain.
you go slowly now, please?
Huh?
You must go slowly at this point.
I'm going. Please, you're all scientists, you're all experts.
I'm only a
not.
human being.
Please, just listen. I am saying knowledge is stored in the brain or in the heart, wherever you like call it. It's stored. Right?
Yes.
And we function with that knowledge. As a carpenter, as a surgeon, as a psychologist, right? We function with what we have learned as knowledge,
Yes.
accumulated, right?
Absolutely.
I communicate with you in English, or French if you want it, or Italian, or Spanish. I know those four. So I communicate with each other. So there is knowledge accumulated, and what is the relationship of that knowledge to action? Let's put it that way. Not pain. Let's leave pain for the moment. Right? Would you agree?
To action,
Yes.
But the
something that is in the
actualness.
present.
Action.
Knowledge. There is this knowledge. Right? And I have to act.
To act.
Is knowledge, is action born of knowledge?
Oh, it seems to be that way.
Right?
That's the question you're asking.
I'm questioning.
Yes.
Apparently it seems so. Right? Agree?
Yes.
That's
So,
Not
of
so
course.
clear.
in the brain, not only.
Leave brain for
Leave
the
brain for the
minute.
moment.
We'll come back to it a little later, if you don't mind.
It's not so clear because if I look at that, I see that knowledge has something to do with it.
With-
But with action, with the manifestation of a present situation.
So
now.
we have to inquire what's action before we...
But it doesn't, to me, it doesn't
Yes,
follow
yes.
that it's just knowledge that
No, wait,
initiates.
sir. There is knowledge. We have come to...
Yes.
Right. What is action? Either action according to a memory, knowledge from the past, or action with an idea in the future, or an ideal. Right? Either according to the past or according to the future. I will do this. Right?
But what about the actions? What your description doesn't cover, in my experience, is those actions that seem to be born out of nowhere.
I'm coming out of language.
Or out of nowhere, out of a place
We'll come
which
to
I
that.
cannot
We'll
pin
come
down.
to that a minute
Yes.
later.
Okay.
Right? Action born from the past, memory, I have done this and will do that tomorrow. So, what we know of action is born of the past or of the future.
So action involves information.
Information. Right? Agree?
Agree.
Then, that's a limited action.
Yes. Limited.
Right?
Sure, it's limited by the knowledge you have, by definition.
Or knowledge which we have accumulated,
Yes.
which the race has accumulated.
Of course.
Whereas the present, the past, or the future, that's the matter. Are you saying that?
When action is based on the past or in the future, that action must invariably limit it.
Yes.
Is there other kind of action?
Just,
Wait, he's
yeah,
going
we'll
to-
come to
That's good. I'm interested
right?
on that. Yes.
So is there an action which is not limited? Because if action is limited, it must create conflict.
Yes.
Maybe I haven't
Limitation.
quite gone that distance. I don't quite go that whole distance. If an action is born, every action born of knowledge must be
No,
limited.
I didn't say that.
Action born of knowledge must be limited.
Action, we first of all said action,
Yeah.
called the past
Yes.
or the future, is limited.
Right, yes.
By definition, because you're acting on unlimited resources
Wait,
of knowledge.
I pick up this glass and drink the water. Now, is that limited? Does that lead to
No, no,
conflict?
No, it's limited. Well, wait a second. I'm not sure about the leading to conflict, but it's
No, I'm
limited.
not sure.
The way I understand it is
But it
limited in
might.
the sense that, for example,
Yeah.
you are not a left-hander, but a right-hander. And you pick it up with your right hand and not with your left hand, but I pick it up with my left hand. Why do you do that and I do this? Is because we have accumulated a
Yes.
different style
Yes.
of approach, and it's limited.
But
That's
does
why
that-
you pick it up with your hand and not with your foot or your
But
left.
can there be an action in that which is just a simple, mechanical, self-contained action which begins and ends, and that's the end of it?
Well, this is the
There's no
point now we're
conflict.
coming. Okay,
Yeah.
why is the
Unlimited.
limited action leading to conflict? Necessarily, it can. It's
I'm
clear that
going
it
to-
can.
I'm going to explain
Yes.
my.
Okay, fine.
If I'm thinking about myself all day long, which most people do, it's very small action, limited action. Right? When I'm associated or identified with a nation, it's a very small action. Therefore, there are wars. One of the reasons of war is nationalism, based on economic division, so on, so on, so on. Right? That's all very limited. Right? Right? Agree?
Absolutely.
So,
Well, these are psychological actions,
Even
actions in
physical
relationship.
action.
Well, yes, but are they to do with simple things like digging a hole,
No,
lighting a fire?
that's-
Let's make the distinction between that and the larger actions which are motivated by nationalism or relationships.
dig-
It seems, that you might have an action within the limitation that can be also rational, what you are
Yes.
saying, and might not necessarily create conflict.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, it seems to be obvious that.
Yeah.
But I think you're addressing another question here, which is psychologically, you see, when your action is based on the limitation, there's conflict.
I said, when I'm thinking about myself, I am digging a hole for myself. It is very small,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
When I'm thinking about my future, my problems, my whatever, it's all enclosed, small.
Small, yes.
So it's the opposing limits that creates the
Yes, a
conflict.
natural thing, right? Look, you're doubtful.
Yes, I'm doubtful because it seems that when you say if the knowledge has me as reference point, it will create conflict. Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
Question: does it have to have that me reference by necessity, or is there not a possibility of a limited action, limited understanding, but which does not have me as a reference point?
There may be limited actions when I'm digging a hole,
Mhm.
to take his example.
All right.
But we are talking much wider issue.
No,
Yes.
even wider issues. For example, I could.
Let me finish what
okay.
I want to say. Any action born out of limitation must inevitably create conflict. If I am a scientist and I'm only concerned with my career, with my investigation, with my research, follow? And it's a very small affair.
Yes.
And I don't care a hang what happens outside the world.
Yes. But is that a limitation of thought, or is a limitation of that kind of thought?
Limitation of thought, limitation of capacity, limitation of environment. I include everything.
How can we widen this?
Yeah, just we come
Yeah,
to that.
I am waiting
We come
about
to
this.
that. You understand, sir? Have we communicated with each other?
No, I think I understand what you're saying, but again, you seem to me to be shifting from the nature of knowledge to the nature of a kind of knowledge.
No, no. We started knowledge. We know we
Yes.
agree.
Right.
And I said, what relationship has action to
To
knowledge?
knowledge. Right. And you said every action born of knowledge, it has
I did not-
limited and it creates conflict.
Yes, because knowledge is limited.
Yes, but again, I'm trying to examine that step of the relationship between the limited actions born of limited knowledge, which we agree is limited, to the conclusion that such actions necessarily lead to conflict,
I see.
where you invoked an
I-
extra quality to knowledge, which is self-centered knowledge.
No, wait, sir.
Okay.
We said knowledge and action. We both understand.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge, action born of any limited action, limited knowledge, action also must be limited.
Mm-hmm.
Next step, such action breeds division. Just take it. Just
That's true.
Yeah.
Division, yes. Distinction.
Yes.
Mhm.
where there is division, there must be conflict.
Yes.
Is that
It
true?
is true.
Yes.
Just wait, he's working it out.
I must say that I can see the conflict arising only when this extra quality of having an absolute reference point to the division arises, such as
no,
me.
I see this, sir. I see.
The division in itself is not conflictive. It is division plus a solid reference point that make the division divisive.
Suppose you work in the laboratory and your knowledge is limited and you're working on this drug or this chemical or whatever. You forget about everything outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may say there's no self in that, but that does create a lot of conflict for the world. The fact that your starting point is so limited. You don't take into account the whole environment, and you don't take into account the implications
I
of
don't
what
see
you're doing.
that. Let's transport that metaphor to an ecological metaphor. Okay, if I take the foxes, all right, the foxes like rabbits, right, is the limited inclination of foxes to chase these other animals a limitation because they do not take into account the entire ecosystem? It doesn't seem to be the case. The ecosystem is a very harmonious totality in which every part of it has a limited part, but they all work as a harmonious totality. Why
We
is that?
don't.
No.
Why not?
We
No. I mean the ecosystem. Not human beings. Human beings add something extra, which is what you're pointing out. Add something extra to knowledge, to limited knowledge, which is a solid reference point of me-ness.
Yes.
This the fox does not do. It simply does what it does.
Well, isn't it the distinction
So-
between difference and division? You
Yes.
seem to put differences and division into one pot.
Sir, division. All right, let's stick to word division.
Now let's make a distinction between difference and division.
Now, what do you mean by difference and division?
Well, in other words, foxes are different from rabbits.
And they only know how to chase
And
rabbits
they only
and
know
not
how to
birds.
chase rabbits. And that's a difference, but that's not a division.
No, of course not. Difference. The tree is different from me.
Exactly.
And there's no conflict
That's not a
necessarily in
conflict.
there.
Of course not.
Okay, so we agree then that the step from knowledge as limited and creating divisions or distinctions
yes.
does not necessarily lead to conflict. Because, for example, the fox and being limited in his knowledge of
Sir,
the world
just-
doesn't create the conflict.
See what is happening in India
Okay.
or in Beirut or the Arab and the Israel.
Sir, I've been through a civil war myself.
Yes, sir, we know that. So what happens? Where is the division? What has brought about this division?
Has been brought about by division plus the sense of me being right or me being,
That's all.
etc.
That's all.
Yes. No, but please understand me. I'm not denying that point, which I entirely see it, I think. But it seems to me that we have to separate that extra, which is the me-ness or the self-centeredness, from knowledge as such. That knowledge as such can exist in a limited
I
aspect
understand.
without the meanings.
Knowledge is such in those books.
Right.
No. Knowledge as such as my knowledge, for example, that I can pick up this glass of water, or larger knowledge such as how to run an economy or
How
a
to run a
railway
motor.
station.
Of course, that's understood.
Well, are you trying to say, for example, when you
I'm trying not to put what seems to be a distinction of knowledge for a particular kind of knowledge. But I don't know if I'm making
I
myself
can't
clear.
quite go along all the way with you on that, and particularly on the one with the foxes. You see, I don't think that's a good analogy between foxes and humans.
but perhaps you know, before
And
we
I
go
don't.
to
I think
foxes,
maybe we're going off
perhaps
the track.
we should go back to the question. You see that all our actions seems to be born out of knowledge. No?
Yes, sir.
There seems somehow you see,
And that knowledge, as we have already said, is limited.
Yes.
So action is limited,
Action is limited.
right?
Yes.
Let's start from that.
Okay.
And a next step for me is that as knowledge is limited, action is limited. And that's one of the reasons or one of the causes of human division. In their relationship, my ideas, my ambition, his ideas, his ambition, his competitiveness and my competitiveness, my aggression, so on. This constant division is naturally breeding conflict in the world.
Yes.
That's all.
Fine.
well, the next question would be
Wait. That's all. Let's agree to that, right? And I say, for God's sake, let's stop this conflict. Because it's killing human beings. The Russians, the Americans, the Democrats, the Total, you follow the, you know, the Arab and the Jew, the Muslim and the Hindu, right?
Yes.
The Sikh and the Hindu. I said, this, we are destroying each other. Right? And I say to myself, is there an action, seeing all this, which is not limited? That's all. Which transcends this, goes beyond this. Otherwise, we can't solve this. You stick to your, I better stick to my, I stick to my Indian, and he sticks to his Arab, and we fight, right? So can we communicate, dropping your Arab and my dropping a Hindu, and look, let's, as human beings, let's solve this problem, not to kill each other, right?
Fine.
So is there an action which is not divisive, which is not limited, right? We agree to that.
Yes.
Now, how are we going to find that out? That's all my point.
But wait a second. There is two. It seems to me that there is. You're asking two questions at the same time. If the hope is to find a way in which this strife can be stopped, which I
That's one question.
I fully agree, it's something absolutely essential and necessary. It seems to me that there are two possibilities of answering. One is the one you propose is, can we have an action which is not born out of limitation?
Yes, that's
Right. But the other possibility is to say, is there not a possibility of learning action born out of knowledge, therefore limited, but which is not centered in defending the point of view
Of course,
or the
of course,
means?
of course.
Okay.
Why
But
do-
both are equally valid to me.
Of course,
Equally
they're
valid
both-
courses of action.
Both are valid, and both are contained in this one question.
Both are contained in the same question.
I want to add another question. Now, wait a second. They both are contained in this one question, but there's another question. Now, all scientists sitting here, in a sense, and one of the things that has come out of science, or investigation of the brain in a scientific way, has been the fact that we never perceive anything except with reference to what we already know.
I question that.
I know you question it, but now it seems to me that there is some sort of edge of discussion there, because if that's true, then the only way we can discover an action the only road that we can take is through that kind of situation. If that's not true, then then it may be possible to have an unlimited action. Now, how can we discuss? How can you question it? And there is all this other statement to the effect that it questions you.
Yes, sir.
So now we've got an edge.
What are you trying to say?
Well, I'm saying that there's some question among scientists as to whether it's possible to have an action that is not born out of knowledge.
You're saying that perception...
Perception is always governed by knowledge.
Action goes from perception.
Absolutely fair. I mean, there is two separate questions, therefore. One is, can we actually discover actions which is unlimited? And two, is that action something that can be possibly related to what science is or has to say?
Human life, or to human existence, which is
right.
part of science.
No, of course.
Yes,
but
we
since
have
we
to-
are here among
We're
scientists,
here really, you see, what I'm interested in is the fact that we really only know limited action.
That's all.
That's all we know. That's the only fact.
Don't go on. And somebody, he comes along and says, perhaps there is an action which is not limited.
Exactly.
So unless I'm totally blind and deaf and dumb and stupid, I listen to him.
Yeah. But, I just wanted to go back, not to the brain, because it was not allowed. Yesterday I told about the children, small children. There is a stage in children where the action is not that limited. It begins, of course, the limitation then, but in the beginning they have some quality of action which is not that limited. They are open for the whole of the environment, the family, to other children. They don't distinguish with other nationalities,
Yes, sir.
whether
Children
white,
don't.
black,
Babies
or
don't.
so.
Children don't.
Yes, but could we
Later
then...
on,
Yes,
they're trained.
they are trained, quite.
They're
But now,
educated to hate the black and purple
Yes.
and blue.
may I still say one thing? When we grow older, we have still this brain of the little child in our brain, in our mature brain. We have it, we know it. Then, as I see it, we have in our brain beg your pardon, I'm talking about brain. We have this part
Maybe
which
I
can
don't-
act, yes,
Maybe so.
we know it, which can act
Maybe
not
I don't-
quite unlimited, but not that limited.
Yeah.
So I think we have to, as a scientist, I'm saying that, we have to find again, as being adults, we have to find this childlike view.
Yes. Well,
You understand?
Yes, I
values,
understand very
values
well.
which
I
the little
understand.
child.
Yes, sir.
So I think that
You
would be
are
a point.
also saying the same thing in a different way,
Yeah.
that there is in all of us
Yes.
a divine spark.
Yes. Exactly.
Comes to the same thing.
That's the same thing. Yes. Yeah.
Please, I'm not laughing at it, I'm saying
No, I think it's your
millions of-
I'm laughing because I thought the analogy was
millions
wonderful.
of people feel that there is in them something far superior than this ordinary brain.
Yes.
Far superior to environment, economy, etc., etc.,
Krishnaji, listen, if you take a small child, you take a child there's an experiment that was done with a child 3 months old.
I know.
Yeah.
And these children were hooked up to a where they were sucking a breast. If they sucked that breast, there was a picture on the wall that was out of focus. No, listen. If they put it, if the picture, there was a moving picture on the wall. If they sucked this breast a certain way, these were 3-month-old children, the picture came into focus. In other words, and the child responded at 3 months old positively to the fact that he was able to focus that. So what I'm saying is there's something built into the organism which responds to focus.
I understand all that.
But may I say something? I think Kay raised the question whether there's an action born out of limitation. I think we should really try to
Not born out
yes,
of
yes, not born out of. We should.
Well, is
How are we
there?
going to, well, how are we going to find out?
I think David added the question, is there a perception? Could there be any perception that it doesn't require knowledge?
Yes,
And that seems to be the same.
Okay, fine.
Okay, let's start from the
Let's stick to that one.
But in a little child there is this kind of perception.
Well, I disagree with you, Marty. Actually.
No, but
Because your little children is still perceiving. It's still limited.
I am a little child.
Yeah, but the
Now,
little
here.
child is different, but it's not because it's different, it's less limited.
Yes, but
It's limited. It's just
Sorry,
as limited.
Can we go back perhaps to the
Yes.
to the original question?
Yes.
I mean,
Unlimited.
we said there might be. Let's perhaps try and say what is perception, what we normally mean.
Let's continue.
perception.
Let's continue with the
Unlimited perception.
investigation of how can we know, or come to know,
Is
this
it possible?
unlimited action, unlimited perception.
Is it possible? I mean, that's the whole question. Science says no.
All
There's
right.
no such thing as unlimited.
All right.
No, science says yes.
No,
in the
not
children.
this is just discussion.
Sir, just a minute, sir. There are millions of people in the world who say there is God. You come around and say that's just an invention of thought. Then I say, all right, go to hell. I go on worshipping. And that's that.
That's right.
We're not in that position, I hope.
No. So let's investigate.
So we are
That's
exploring.
what I'm saying, yeah.
We come to a point where we have said action born of limited knowledge is divisive. And therefore, conflict arises where there is division. That's all we've stated.
Yes.
Then the next question arose, is there an action which is not limited?
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Right?
Right. All right.
Now, how are we going to find out?
Do you have any suggestions?
I'm going to. I'm asking. You're the scientist.
Well, I said before that I agree entirely with David. From the point of view of the scientific framework, there's no way to approach that question.
No.
Now, but at the same time, as a human being, who, by examining my own
You're a
mind,
human being, not a scientist.
I am a
Thank
human
God.
being as a scientist.
You can talk
yes,
as human being.
Fine.
Good.
But also, I happen to have a craft. So I happen to have this craft as a scientist. So
Yes, sir,
I
that's
can't.
secondary importance.
Secondary importance, all right. But as a human being, when I observe my mind, I do notice that there are certain actions I do which do not seem to come out of knowledge, but seem to be born out of themselves.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
Okay, this is observation now.
Yes.
Now,
So it may be false, it may be true, it may not. I'm not
all right,
questioning.
it's observation.
But wait, now,
but-
before you go on, I want to present him this question. Is it conceivable, or isn't it true, that in our scientific investigation, very often when we think that this action is born out of an unlimited, it seems to appear,
Yes.
that on further investigation we discover how limited it was.
Yes, that is
Very
born
often.
out of
More
another
often
level.
than not.
Yes. Yes.
More
Agree,
often
agree,
than not.
There is
agree.
nothing. There is
Agree.
nothing I could counter to that.
I want to find out if there is an action which is not limited
Exactly.
and which is not consciously or unconsciously connected with knowledge.
Exactly.
The same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Fine. There we are.
How
That means that that you have to be available for my most astute going after it to find out how, if I can find a way to show to you that really did come out of your knowledge.
Oh, I'm willing.
Okay.
What is your response, sir, to that question?
Oh, I think I said all I know,
I know what
namely.
you said.
Excuse
but
me? Yeah.
Let's go a little deeper then.
Fine.
We're asking a question, is there action in which there is no limitation? Right?
Mm-hmm.
The self is limited, the being. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Self is knowledge.
Mm.
Yes, sir. Go slow, I'll explain.
Okay.
The self is a bundle of memories.
Oh, yes, in that sense. Okay, fine.
Right?
Mm.
So, as long as that self is acting, right,
Mm-hmm.
there is limitation.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is there an ending to the self? Ending, not continuing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first question. To end the whole, may I use the word consciousness?
Yeah, sure.
With all its memories, with all its fears, sorrows, pain, anxieties, depression, faith, belief, the whole content of consciousness is the movement of thought. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Agree?
Yes.
That is the self. Right?
Right.
That is knowledge. We said the self is whole series of memories. It's a bundle. And as long as that action is born from there, it's limited.
Yes.
Yes.
Therefore, conflict. We agreed to
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. No problem.
So, can the self end? It's only then there is action which is not limited. It's logical stuff.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Can the self end? And the self is so deceptive, you can hide behind the most holiest things, right? And the most extraordinary imagination, right? And in the scientific, it can hide like a cockroach. Right?
Yes.
Can that self end? So, the word mantra, you've heard that word, means that. The original root meaning of that word is ponder, think over, meditate on not becoming. And also, put away all self-centered activity. Meaning of that word is that, root meaning. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Meditate, not becoming,
Mm-hmm.
which is an immense factor. That means there is no psychological evolution. Right? For the me, there is no me to evolve.
Absolutely.
But we think there is me continuing. In heaven, in hell, in follow. I write a book, there it is, immortal. Or you throw it in the waste paper basket. So can the self, which is whole series of memories and time, right, all that, can that completely end? Knowing that it's the most deceptive thing. Right, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Find out. I say it can, totally end. And live in this world.
Well, if it is indeed, it can end, and you're saying you're still in this world,
Absolutely.
okay, it means that, for example, this person who has no self, but who is in this world, drives a car.
What?
Drives a car, or
Of course, there he has to use
fine,
knowledge.
but then it means that that knowledge is there.
Yeah, of course.
So that action out of knowledge is
Limited,
present.
of course. But we said also.
So what is the now? This is the question
that's
I'm asking
simple,
you.
That's simple. You can see it yourself. Don't ask me. It's simple.
Well, no. Let me put it this way.
So I have to write a letter,
Yes.
right? Which means great deal of knowledge, writing a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Sequence, the verb.
Fine.
It means tremendous knowledge involved in writing a stupid letter.
Mm-hmm.
That knowledge is necessary.
And it's self-centered action.
It's not.
Why not?
If the self is not, that's not.
But how could it not be self-centered action according to your definition of self,
No,
since it is a
no,
bunch of
no,
memories?
Not my definition. At least we agreed. Don't say.
Oh, well, no. Here is where we get.
Careful,
Wait a second. We agreed, but I repeated at least a couple of times that to me there was a difference between knowledge and self-centered knowledge. That not all knowledge was self-centered knowledge,
Which
and that there was a possibility.
No, I said, sir.
Yeah.
The self is knowledge.
Yes. So if there is no self, there is no knowledge. That follows.
But I can use it. Just a minute, careful. This is careful. So we have to inquire into something totally different, which is, what is intelligence?
Okay, I'm willing to inquire into that, but why do we have to do that?
I'll tell you why in a minute. I'll say it to you. Where there is intelligence, that intelligence can use knowledge. And intelligence is not born of knowledge.
From where?
I'll take it slowly. You may all disagree, tear it to pieces, but I'll go into it,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to inquire what's knowledge. If knowledge can say, well, I'll use this and nowhere else. Knowledge has certain place, but psychologically, etc., it has no place whatsoever.
From what you say, it seems to me that being free from the self, it doesn't mean that you are completely free of knowledge.
Sir, I said to drive a car,
Yes.
I must write a letter, to talk a language, right?
No, but this is we're back to the
Yeah,
question.
that's why I'm come back.
We have to be careful then
Yeah,
in
that's why
analyzing
I'm
this situation. Yes.
We've
Intelligence.
settled all that.
Intelligence.
What is intelligence? Is it born of knowledge? Born of thought?
Well, we
I
said,
mean, sir, it required tremendous knowledge to go to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous. Right?
Yes.
And the work of 300,000 people or 10,000 people cooperating, making every part perfect
Mm-hmm.
to go to the moon. That is the intelligence of thought.
Yes. And then you're asking the question, where does this intelligence come from?
Yes, no. That intelligence is limited.
Yes. It's born of.
It seems very clear.
Yes.
Avanti, avanti.
Yes.
No.
And again, I
Prego,
would...
prego, avanti.
Ma io non parlo italiano.
Sì, sì, parliamo italiano.
But yes, so when I examine what happens is that in thought, there is intelligence that is proper to thought, which is limited. Like when I
That's all.
resolve an equation, whatever.
limited.
Fine. And there's also an intelligence which seems again to have the quality of being out of nowhere, of flashing
We'll come
in.
to that, Minister. We'll come
Okay.
to that.
All right. So, but to me, there is the two intelligences.
Yes, sir. I said,
Fine.
let's wait.
Okay.
There is the intelligence which thought has brought about.
Mm-hmm.
Rational
Huh?
thought. Rational thought.
Thought.
The logical thought.
No, rational, illogical, clever, cunning. Businessman is very intelligent in his business.
No, sure.
A terrorist organizes beautifully to kill somebody. It's still
Yes, there is an intelligence to build itself as ego or as self.
so. There is so-called ordinary intelligence born of thought. Therefore, that intelligence becomes cruel, kindly. You follow the whole series of human activity, which is limited. Then, is there an intelligence which is not born of thought? Right? I say there is. I may be cuckoo. I say there is. And that intelligence can only come about. If you want to go into it, I'll go into it.
Yes, but we got into investigating the nature of intelligence
Yes, that's
out
it.
of the quandary of the paradox of what you said before, that in order to find out unlimited action, I had to finish with the self, which was a collection of memories.
Yes. So,
But if I'm finished with the self as a collection of memories, it seems, from what was said even before, that there will be no knowledge. Therefore, that this person could not write a letter.
no, I
that if the
didn't say
person
that.
writes a letter-
I did not say that. On the contrary, he can write a letter.
But if he writes a letter which requires
So
knowledge,
that's why I said, sir, let's inquire into intelligence,
yeah,
which will then say I will use, that intelligence says I'll use knowledge and nowhere else.
I see. So the intelligence is now the mediator.
Look, keep
What is
intelligence.
it- what
Don't
is
use
intelligence
the word mediator. Just keep word for a minute.
Okay.
All right, so what is intelligence?
What is
Yes.
intelligence? If we say thought with its extraordinary capacity has created a certain intelligence, building a cathedral,
Yes.
most beautiful houses, gardens, furniture, implements of war, right? It's all the result of thought. The atom bomb, right? Such intelligence is limited. Agree? Now, is there an intelligence which is not limited? Right?
Yes.
Now, how do you inquire into it? Exercising thought?
Well, we seem
No.
to
Wait,
know.
wait, wait.
No.
No, the same way you would investigate action which is unlimited, namely by observing, by completely observing without thought.
Is that possible? First,
Well, it seems that it is possible.
possible.
Yes.
No, not a theory.
What do you mean? It
No,
seems
no, no.
No,
Like,
be,
you can do
be
it.
clear, let's be clear. That perception is not based on thought,
Yes,
right?
right.
Keep that perception going.
Yes, and it is.
It's very-
Sorry.
Do you agree with that?
I don't agree, no.
You don't?
Convince them, please.
Oh, you mean it is not possible for you to, in a day that you're walking out of your house and all of a sudden it's a very sharp, beautiful day, and you walk out of, you open the door and you see the tree, and there is a moment in which you simply see the tree. There is no thought coming in. The quality of the experience is that there is no thought. There is a gap in your thoughts, and there is the absolute purity of perception. There is a complete sense of present-centeredness. And the tree-ness of the tree is right there. There's, and then, thought comes up again.
I think, well,
Isn't that an experience
I'm
for
going
you?
to play the devil's advocate.
Fine.
And the devil's advocate is this, that I think that in that very experience, that there are elements in which there is a sense in which we project out our knowledge.
No.
See, he says
Oh,
that.
wait a second. I didn't say there is no knowledge. I said there is no thought.
Well, it's what is.
Sir,
Did you hear that
wait a
distinction?
minute,
Did you hear the
let it-
distinction?
No, please, just a minute. Is there a perception without the word?
Without the word?
Yes. But I think that
Wait,
there.
just answer step by step, sir.
Well, your step by step sometimes is, you set up a question that's already a trap. There is a question in which.
I'm not trapping.
What is
For
about a
God's sake.
perception without a word? Yes.
Without the network of words?
But there is a sense in which perception without the word is already based in some sort of knowledge.
No, sir. I'm just saying, look, we've been through all this.
No, this is our question.
Can you watch me? Can you look at me without all the image, all the nonsense? Just look at me.
I don't think you can, no.
Well, there we are.
Are you saying scientifically?
Scientific, I'm saying actual fact that I think that in some way we're always operating out of some knowledge.
No.
No, but can we take that this slowly? Because
It's very slow on this one.
I
when you
understand all
say,
this.
I can look at you, I think I can look at you or a tree or whatever and not have thought.
Yes, sir,
It
that's
stops.
all I'm
But-
saying.
Fine.
Wait a second. No, wait.
Wait a second. Question. When I see the tree, nevertheless, I see a tree. I don't see a cat.
Human, of course not.
Right. But no, what he's saying, which I think is important, is
I got
that
it,
that
sir.
is knowledge.
Knowledge, yes.
It's limited knowledge.
Limited knowledge.
So
All
that-
right, agreed, move.
Fine. No. So that was a point, that there is...
I understand this.
Fine.
But there's an important question here, Gujaji. What is the relationship of intelligence to the actuality that I am saying that you can't have a perception
We're going to
without
find
knowledge?
out, sir. We're going to find out.
That's what I want to get
We're
at.
coming to that same thing in a different way.
Okay.
What is this intelligence, if there is such intelligence, which is not cultivated by thought, right?
But it uses it.
Huh?
Wait a
it
second.
uses.
We don't know if it uses it yet. We have come to the point of seeing that there is an intelligence that seems to come out without being based on a train of thought.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Fine.
Is there? Is it temporary? Is it something casual, perchance? You saw all those. Or is there an intelligence which is not intermittent, which is not fiction, theoretical, and so on, or imaginary, deceptive, illusory, all those words,
Yes.
all the implication of all those words. I say there is.
How do we find that out?
Now I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
You're all, I'm 90 years old, so I've been at it for
60.
So,
Good point.
That's experience.
what place has all this? What place has love in all this? Is love desire? Is love pleasure? Is love sensation? Right? Is it?
Yeah. Limited love.
No, there's no, love is love, not limited, unlimited.
There's two.
And I
kind of.
go slowly, sir.
Yes.
Is love desire? Is it all the
Sorry,
rest
why
of
do we need to examine love now?
I'll tell you in a minute, you'll come to it. Tell it.
So that thing, yes.
The ball is in my court.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you're now asking us to examine the nature of love because it seems to be necessary to answer the question of how do we get to examine,
how do you get, not get,
to understand, or
no,
to...
how does that intelligence exist?
yes,
Intelligence.
to
yes.
actually ascertain that...
Exist.
Yes.
Mhm.
All
I
right.
say you cannot exist without love.
What is love?
So what we're saying, what is love? You understand?
Yes, fine.
I say that intelligence which is not born of thought, which is limited, that intelligence is the essence of love. Love, therefore I say, is love desire, love ambition, love is there love when there is pleasure, and so on, so on, so on. Or is love something outside of the brain?
Now the brain is there.
You understand, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Let me finish. You can jump on me afterwards. It's still my court.
Good. Please.
Okay, that's a question.
And which means compassion. Where there is love and compassion, there is that intelligence which is not the product of thought. And that is not intermittent. That doesn't come and go. And that love is not the opposite of hate. There is no, love has no opposite. Right? And compassion, love cannot exist if there is any form of attachment. I'm a Catholic or a Hindu or a Sikh, and I'm attached to my God, I'm attached to my anchor, and say I have compassion. That's not compassion.
It's limited.
Limited.
It's limited, yes.
Right, sir?
Yes.
No, proceed.
Okay.
Okay, question.
Wait. Take your racket. Get ready. To me, or to Kay, that's the only thing that matters. If that does not exist, the rest is all limited. And therefore, you'll have perpetual conflict between each other, between the world, and so on, so on. That's all.
Are you ready for me?
Wait, sir, have you understood what the speaker said, what Kay said?
I think I have, but I have a question.
Wait, have you
Got the feeling.
felt it, smelt it, have you tasted it, have you swallowed it before you kick it?
Oh, I don't want to kick it.
No, I'm asking you.
I think I have.
So it means unconditioning the whole human or the structure and the nature of thought. Right?
Yes. Now we have grasped that and listened to that.
And let me
Now proceed.
let me go.
It's in your
Okay, now I want to ask you a question. A few minutes ago, I brought up the fact of this 3-month-old infant.
What?
Who, a minute ago, I mentioned this experiment with the 3-month-old infant that
Yes,
likes the focus.
Sir, just a minute. I have seen it with my eyes actually. I don't have to look.
Fine. Now, what I want to say is this: what can we know? What can we say about the? Here we have a 3-month-old infant that I told you about, And this, in a way, is the basis for desire.
Yes.
In other words, the desire for that focus.
Yes, sir.
That's the essence of desire at 3 months of age.
Yes, sir.
Now, given that fact that desire is so central to the brain, we'll use that word, what is the relationship of what you've just said to this basic fact that desire is so...
Yes, sir, I'll tell you. Then you have to ask, what is desire, right?
Okay, I have another question which is related though. We might be able to handle both of them at the same time, which is that I have heard you.
Sir,
I have
yes,
grasped it or felt it. Then I have the question, how do I know it's true?
you don't know.
I don't know.
Which means,
Which means that I have to investigate it.
with what?
I have to, well, this is exactly the point. With what? The only way I know is to observe very carefully what happens in my experience, which means that what I see is not the continuity of that intelligence, but the intermittency of that intelligence. So how can you, beyond saying,
Huh?
how can you, beyond saying, actually make it possible for people to see that it's not just words?
Therefore, you have to go into the whole question. Why? What's the place of desire?
Yes, that's why the two things are related.
What's the place of desire? And why has desire become so important in our life? You follow the whole movement
Yes,
of desire.
yes.
Have we time?
Oops.
a few minutes. Not really.
It's up to you. I'm happy to go on.
Yeah.
I don't know, there are all people waiting for that.
Also, yes.
Well, I mean, this is a crucial issue.
Yes, sir, I'll
Perhaps
come
if
to
we
that.
could round the idea and
Yes, continue then.
You mean
mean-
to continue tomorrow or continue
well,
now?
just round the idea what we were talking now because we have about 5 minutes. And
5 minutes.
Desire and love, that would be important.
If there is no becoming psychologically, you understand? There is no self. Theoretically, it sounds all right.
You keep going back to this. In theory, it sounds all
But
right,
it-
but
Sir, to see the reality of it and cut it,
how do you see that?
I mean, he tells me, he has been at it for a number of years, he says, look, there is no becoming. Is it, this becoming, has it spilled over from the physical becoming a clerk, stepping the ladder, you follow? Is that a spill, is that movement spilled over into the other field?
It might.
And therefore, you're still thinking in terms of becoming, psychologically, inward. And don't let it spill, expand from there, right? Then, is there a becoming? I will be. I must not. I'm comparing myself. So the ending of measurement. You understand? Complete ending of measurement, which is comparison.
one.
Yes. Stop.
I mean, I was ready to continue. but It's up to you.
Sir, is there an end to knowledge?
Well, better, is there an end to desire?
No, sir, just listen. Is there an end to knowledge?
I don't see that.
Ask that question, sir.
I think there is an end.
If we are functioning all the time within the field of knowledge, it's very limited.
Oh, yes. But even
So
from...
there is an
Therefore,
end.
Is there an end to something?
Oh, is there an end in the sense, is there an edge, a place where it's no longer there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
So which means what?
That means that we are not coming forward with only knowledge, this kind of knowledge.
Sir, could I put another question? Can the brain stop chattering?
Yes, it can.
Complete,
Mm-hmm.
empty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Only act when it's asked. Like a drum, highly tuned, but it's always empty. It's only when you strike on it, it gives you a note. Right?
What is emptiness?
That means, that's what I'm saying. Is there an end to knowledge? When it's, of course. Well, that's another matter.